Hi, this is Les-Levine, the self-proclaimed voice of truth and reason in Ohio sports. So, Odell-Beckham Jr. told GQ that his first reaction when he was told he was being traded by the New York Giants to the Browns was that he felt disrespected by the team and that he thought about retiring from pro football. Odell, before you report to Browns camp on Wednesday, allow me to give you a little history lesson. This may surprise you, but you're not the first person who has ever traded in the NFL. Browns Hall of Fame wide receiver Bobby Mitchell got traded to Washington for Ernie Davis. Paul Warfield was traded to the Miami Dolphins in exchange for Mike Phipps. As good as you may be or think you are, you probably won't have as great a career as both Mitchell and Warfield. You know what your response should have been to that trade? You mean Baker-Mayfield would be throwing to me instead of Eli Manning? You mean I won't be head coached by Pat Shurmur anymore? Mr. Gettleman, the GM, thank you so much for trading me to the Cleveland Browns. Doug Lesmerises here. More Sports and Les-Levine is on the air. From the worldwide headquarters of More Sports and Les-Levine, it's a Monday night. It's a brand new week. Good evening, everyone. Welcome once again to More Sports and Les-Levine into its 23rd consecutive year, soon to be 24 and exclusively here on cleveland.com. Doug Lesmerises of cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer has made it back. What took you so long?
I got lost.
In the wilderness?
Yeah.
I don't mean what took you so long today. I just mean in general.
Yeah, no. Less your priority for me. I'll be back anytime you want me.
All right, tomorrow night, Doug Lesmerises will star. It will be appearing in a starring role. All right, we're at the beautiful time of the year when things happen. Things actually happen in Cleveland no matter what time of the year it is, but it really happens now. Training camp opening, players report on Wednesday. Ohio State getting ready to go under a new head coach. And the Cleveland Indians on their way to doing exactly what I said they would do, and that is run away with the Central Division.
Did you give up at any point, Les? Did you give up? You never give up?
No. In the cargo days, maybe I did.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's the thing. They've changed so much, right? Yeah. Where everyone's anticipating the deadline, but they're already a completely different team. I mean, when you get Hanley Ramirez was hitting cleanup for this team for a month. You get Carlos Gonzalez out. You get Hanley Ramirez out. You get a little of this pitching healthy again. I wrote on June 1st that at that point, in the history since we've gone to this division structure, I think it's 24 years, there had only been one team that was at 10 games out on June 1st and still won the division.
And were you suggesting they were going to do that?
And I wrote they have like a 0.7% chance of doing this, but I thought they could do it. I thought they could be number 2 because all the things we've seen. The Twins will come back. Their pitching is good enough to carry them. Their lineup couldn't be worse than it was early on. So I would just like to say I did not give up either, Les.
Well, it's interesting because not only did I not give up and you didn't give up, worse things started to happen. Who didn't, you got Kluber, you got Clevenger, you got Carrasco.
Situation.
And those are your 3 top pitchers. Well, Bauer's your top pitcher, but those are 3 top pitchers. And you lost them, and they're still going strong. And are you scoreboard watching every game?
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. And not expecting a Twins collapse, right?
Right.
But the Twins were on like a 110-win pace for the first
Which
half of the year. Did you
happen.
think the Twins were going to win 110 games? I didn't think so.
It reverts to the norm or the mean or whatever. All right, they also got an interesting player almost in a trade. Jose Ramirez. Who's that guy?
You think about the time when for the first, 4 or 5 months of last season, you could have argued that the ranking of American League offensive players was Mike Trout, Jose Ramirez.
Close it off. That's it.
And he was a 0. He was a non-factor.
Well, he's not a 0 anymore.
So I know it, and I know people make light of this. It's like, oh, guys come back around. It's like getting a new player. It's unbelievable. People forgot how good he can be. And so I think, I don't know. Is he going to be MVP? I thought he was going to win the MVP last year. Is he going to be MVP, Jose Ramirez?
Well, he wouldn't have made it
better.
He wouldn't have made it because Trout's got the name and all that, and nobody knew Ramirez. All right, let's turn our attention to football because you're doing a great job covering both Ohio State and the Cleveland Browns. You were at the Big Ten meetings, right?
I was.
And I said to you that earlier that if you didn't have these guys, you'd have to invent them. I'm talking about Woody and Bo. I'm talking about Harbaugh and Urban, and throw in Earl Bruce in between and whatever else happened because Earl Bruce knew Urban Meyer. But the rivalry continues, but one guy won't give up part of the rivalry that he should give up, and that's Harbaugh and Urban Meyer. I understand Harbaugh did not have a good record against Urban.
0-4. 0-4. So I mean, you thought, and I think a lot of us talked about this and wrote this when Harbaugh got hired, were we going to see another version of the 10-year war? Woody and Bo got their 10 years, and it was great. And we got 4. We got 4 years, and it was 4-0. So
scoreboard.
You know, that wasn't what sort of the area that Jim Harbaugh was covering this week when he said these comments about Urban Meyer, that controversy. Urban Meyer won a lot, but controversy follows him wherever he goes. You know, that's what kind of riled everybody up, including me, at Big Ten Media Days, and that's true. What he said about Urban Meyer, there's a lot of truth to that. But it's, as I said to Jim Harbaugh, it's different when it's coming out of your mouth because you're the Michigan coach, man.
Right. Let the Michigan media say, you know, it wasn't as bad as 0-4 seems to be. Here's what he said, talking to, help me out on that name. Can you help me out?
Tim Kawakami from The Athletic, who knows Jim Harbaugh from when he was the coach in San Francisco.
All right, Urban Meyer's had a winning record, a really phenomenal record everywhere he's been, but also controversy follows everywhere he's been. You welcome the accountability and all that can be judged on is your record. Well, okay, I agree with you. That's something maybe you say, but not Harbaugh. People defending Harbaugh should probably be the ones saying it.
Yeah, and so, you know, again, we got bogged down in a lot of this stuff, and I don't know, I certainly was never arguing like whether there was truth to it or not, because clearly there's truth to it or not, but there's all kinds of stuff that's true that like people don't say. So my question and what I asked Jim Harbaugh about when we kind of got in a little, not a fight, but he kind of looked at me like this. After I was asking,
was he wearing khakis, beige khakis?
I always says he dresses like he's wearing a Jim Harbaugh Halloween costume. But he actually wore a suit again this year, but he had the Michigan M hat on, so he had the hat on.
Well, hey, Freddie Kitchens does that too.
Yeah, no, I like hats. It helps with the bald spot up here if you got a hat on. So he was. It's not about the truth. It's about why did you say it. My point was, we're sort of past that, and that will always be part of Urban Meyer, right? Of course. But did that help Michigan beat Ohio State this year? For Jim Harbaugh to comment on that, does that help Michigan beat Ohio State? When all the stuff Michigan said last year, Urban Meyer, after the fact, said how mad he was about that when Michigan said they were on a revenge tour. There was a pseudo guarantee by a Michigan player last week during the game. Urban Meyer brought all that stuff up a couple weeks ago in a speech to the team. It makes them mad. And if you're Michigan and Jim Harbaugh right now, why are you making Ohio State mad?
Okay, I got it, because not only do I play a shrink on TV, I play it in real life. So let me examine this. Number one, there isn't a minute that goes by in Harbaugh's day that he doesn't think about the 0-4. That's
what I think. I agree.
Okay, that's number one. Number two, eventually, and as an Ohio State grad, and named a booster one time by Andy Geiger. It's a long story.
Want to give me something under the table here?
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. The point, as much as it pains me to say that, if Harbaugh stays there a while, however many years you want to put on it, he's going to win. I don't know about this year, next year, if he stays 10 years, maybe 1 year. So then he gets to say, see, I told you so, and I'm on an even keel with these guys. I think it's more, of the two in ranking, I think it's the fact that there isn't a moment in his waking life, and maybe while he sleeps, that he can't do anything but think about the horseshoe, getting beat at home twice, whatever.
And if that is true, my point would be, how did that help you? To say that thing, how did that help you accomplish this goal? How did it help you beat Ohio State for the first time? And here's the thing about Jim Harbaugh. Good. Much better than Michigan was before him. You thought he was coming to be Michigan's savior. in a lot of ways, he has been that compared to Brady Hoke and Rich Rodriguez. He just hasn't beaten Ohio State. He hasn't beaten Michigan State enough. He hasn't beaten Notre Dame enough, right? So we get that. So it's not that he's done everything wrong, but there are times, and the other part of this too with Jim Harbaugh is like, again, Urban Meyer's record and with the controversy, that's on the record. We all know that. But why are you doing it? And until you beat Ohio State, right? I mean, he just has this habit of sort of being like a little bit of like a jerk, which like, and I've had 2 confrontations with him at Big Ten Media Days now. I had one a couple years ago, and again, it happened this year. And my point with all of that is like, if there's a guy who's going to be a jerk to other people, then I'm going to be a jerk to you. And I am a jerk. So it's not a stretch for me.
You can be a good one.
Oh, I'm very good. I could get on you right now, Les. No. I'll go right at you.
No, I'll tell you why you can't. My hearing is terrible, and it won't matter.
Plus, you're so nice. You're much You're much nicer than Jim Harbaugh. So it's just one of those. If you want to put that out there, and it's fine. I'm going to ask you why you put it out there. I'm going to challenge you on it. I read a tweet from Urban Meyer's daughter, who said it sounds like he's throwing mud just to deflect from the fact he's 0-4. I read that to Jim Harbaugh to see what his reaction to be. So it's fine.
Do you think she should have written it?
She is very defensive of her father. She was very active on social media throughout everything that happened last year. And you know what? I mean, like, again, she's his oldest daughter. Yeah. Of course she's going to defend her dad, and that's okay. You can do that.
216-575-0403 is the number to call. You can email us during the show at real-les-levine@gmail.com. You can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/more-sports-and-les-levine with new content added each and every day. We'll get to some of your responses a little bit later. Ryan Day prepares for his first season as head coach. I'm guessing Doug Lesmerises has some thoughts about that. And we'll get to those in a moment. More Sports and Les Levine, seen exclusively on cleveland.com.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program has been recognizing role model students and teachers since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Supporting Education. There, you can nominate students in kindergarten through 12th grade as academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible for the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Let's check out the birthdays for today, July 22nd. Mike Raffone was born in 1947. Dave Steve pitched a no-hitter for the Toronto Blue Jays. Tim Brown, Mike Sweeney, Steven Jackson, and Ezekiel Elliott, seen dancing on the left side, born on the 22nd of July. 216-575-0403. All right, we talked about Harbaugh, and now let's talk about the other side of the ledger. That would be Ryan Day. Number one, right choice, wrong choice, or don't we know yet?
I think good choice. I think the way they went about it, I said it at the time, I think they could have gone and looked a little harder, looked around a little bit more than they did. Gene Smith did sort of a cursory look at some other national people. I mean, this is a big time job.
It's one of the top 3, right?
I would not have, yeah, I think that's right. I mean, you could argue with all the recruiting power and everything that's in the South right now, at least top 5. I think you could have done a national search, but you might have come back to Ryan Day anyway. Not a bad choice. Not a bad choice. And he's smart.
Was there an Ohio State guy? We hear about Michigan guys. Was there an Ohio State guy out there they missed? Maybe Mike Vrabel. Would he have been interested in coming back? I don't know who I'm even missing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably you start with Vrabel. When he left as an Ohio State assistant, went to the Texans several years ago, everyone knew at that point, I mean, he was doing that to be a head coach. I think he may have had interest, but also, I mean, not a ton of guys leave NFL head coaching jobs to be a head coach in college. You could have looked at Luke Fickell if you wanted to at Cincinnati, but I think there wasn't as quite of an obvious candidate, and I'd rather get Ryan Day on the way up than like maybe they would have looked, if they looked at Bob Stoops or something. Get somebody on the way up than somebody on the way down. So this is where we are, and they were very excited about keeping a lot of the other structures in place, having continuity, and I think the things they did there with the strength program, with recruiting, you've seen the payoff there, so that, yes, you hired Ryan Day, but you also kept a portion of Urban Meyer, and if you had hired anybody else, you wouldn't have been able to do that.
Right. Is Urban still involved?
He's around. He's not around all the time, and that's been like a big thing to me of like how do he can't cast a shadow. You can't feel like it's still really Urban Meyer's program.
Let the reins go.
He's in the athletic department. He's across the street. They built him an office. He's he's not the assistant athletic director, but he's one of the myriad assistant athletic directors. He's helping out coaches on other teams, but he's not like an everyday presence with the football team.
All right, let me throw in a shameless plug here for a minute. As some of you know, I'm the vice president of the Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame. And it's a 5-county area that we induct people. One of them includes Ashtabula, and now we can get Urban Meyer. We couldn't get him before. Oh. Now we can. He's not doing anything on a Wednesday night in September. So September 18th is the night. Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame. You can go to the website and purchase tickets for that. He will be there that night.
He will be there.
He will be there.
He'll be there. I'll be there then too.
All right. The Landerhaven. Be there.
Yeah.
All right. We'll talk.
Yeah.
We'll have my people talk to your people.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say I was going to go in the Hall of Fame, but that's never going to happen.
You want to?
Sure.
I'll give you the keys.
It's my only shot. So I think it's good.
Being in Hall of Fame is not a big deal.
That's a thing that a person in a Hall of Fame says.
Right.
As someone who will never be in a Hall of Fame, yes, it's a very big deal.
It is a big deal. Doug Lesmerises is with us, cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. All right, so I'm not sure what this class, the 19 class, how much is Urban Meyer, how much is Ryan Day, but I know Ryan Day is the guy for 2020, and that, you always see 5-star, 4-star, and you always want to say, well, let's see them. But here's what we've got. Right now, they're just names. Anybody stand out that is maybe going to be more than a name?
Yeah,
that you look at?
There's a lot of guys on there, actually. They have, I think, 9 guys out of the top 100 recruits in the nation. There's 7 of them on that list there. There's only one team with more top 100 recruits right now than Ohio State. Julian Fleming is a really polished kid that Penn State really wanted, so to beat Penn State for him was a big deal. And then Jack Miller, number 7 on that list, that is the quarterback of the future. That is the guy who is going to be the starting quarterback after Justin Fields. He's out of Arizona, big arm, can also move. That was the guy they picked. But really, this receiver class, there's another kid not on that list, Jackson Smith-Njigba, but you throw him in with G. Scott, Mookie Cooper. Mookie Cooper's a slot guy, and Julian Fleming. They have 4 of the best receivers in the country. Brian Hartline, the former Brown, the former Buckeye, who took over for Zach Smith last year, has been doing a great job on the recruiting trail. So you can see the future of this offense with the future quarterback and 4 future receivers already locked in this class.
I went to Brush High School. Do you know how cool it is to say, yeah, I'm from Chaparral?
Yeah. Well, you could come up with a fancier name for Brush. Yeah.
Chaparral is a pretty cool name for a high school.
Yeah. Oh, out in the desert, they have all those crazy names. But yeah, it's a good group. And the thing that I've said, and it's not a one-to-one comparison, if Ryan Day coaches as well as he's recruited so far,
right,
like they're great. They're good to go.
All right. You mentioned we mentioned it's a top 3 program or whatever. Is Ryan Day looking this as a resume piece, or is this as high as is this where you go?
So it's hard because you can't assume with anybody, right? I talked to Ryan Day about this extensively a couple months ago.
That's a good question.
Great. That's why you're a Hall of Famer, Les. You ask the questions that matter. Ryan Day a year ago could have gone to work for Mike Vrabel in Tennessee. Mike Vrabel, when he got hired, wanted Ryan Day to be his offensive coordinator. Ryan Day turns that down to stay here. Basically, Ohio State says, we'll give you $1 million and psst, you're going to take over when Urban leaves. So Ryan Day stays. Matt LaFleur then becomes the Titans offensive coordinator. He's there 1 year. He's now the head coach of the Packers. So it's not exact. But Ryan Day could be the head coach of the Green Bay Packers right now. So if Ryan Day, if his dream, if he truly, truly, truly said, I'm going to be a head coach in the NFL, and that's all I want to do, he could have taken a path already that would have gotten him there more quickly. He has young children. He and his wife have moved around a lot. They were interested in settling down a little bit. They want this lifestyle. He's not from here, so it's different than Urban. It's different than Jim Tressel. It's different than Earl Bruce. It's different than... You don't have that in your blood and in your bones that you grew up on this stuff. So, like, you can joke and say he's from New Hampshire. Hey, is he going to replace Bill Belichick with the Patriots when Bill Belichick retires if Josh McDaniels doesn't take the job? I think there will be a little bit of that with Ryan Day forever, just because he's not an Ohio guy. But I'm also not an Ohio guy, and I've covered this team for 15 years. So he's saying all the right things. He says he wants to be here. He says he wants to settle in. He said repeatedly, we are here for the long haul. So I don't think it's fair to him to say, yeah, but you're not from Ohio.
Right.
It's not a prerequisite to be from the state in which you coach.
You know, you just said something that I had not thought about before, and when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. To me, an Ohio State guy, the skull sessions before the games, the Buckeye Grove, the whatever, all the Ohio State traditions that there are, means something to me. It's hard to believe it doesn't mean something to almost everybody. And you're just saying, it's one school has this. I'm sure the other schools have popular things too. It's just Ohio State is ingrained in me, and it's hard to picture an Ohio State coach who's not ingrained in it.
Yeah, it's if you limit your pool of coaching hires to guys who grew up in Ohio, you're giving your university short shrift, right? It's just you can't do that. Even though there's a million great coaches from Ohio.
Also in previous staffs, there's usually a guy you could pinpoint and say he's the next guy. That Ohio guy is the next guy.
Right. And you know, like maybe Brian Hartline will be that guy. Like Luke Fickell was that guy for a long time. So it's not fair to hold Ryan Day to that standard. I joke sometimes. I mean, he's like trying to say, like, when I was growing up in New Hampshire, the Ohio State-Michigan game, and I'm like, okay, it's okay. You're from New Hampshire. It's okay. But I will say again, and I don't mean to make this about me, but I make everything about me. I'm not from here, right? And I didn't know basically jack squat about Ohio State when I started covering them.
Jack Squat was a good wide receiver.
See, probably at Ohio State that I wouldn't have known that. And I got here in 2005, and it's one of those things, I didn't grow up on it. But I'll tell you what, man, Script Ohio is cool for everybody. And the skull session is cool for everybody.
Right.
And so there is a part of that it's like you don't have to be from here to appreciate it, to want to be part of it, to embrace it. I think a little bit of it will hang over Ryan Day. What's he going to do next? Ohio State's never been a stepping stone job for anybody, not since Paul Brown.
I felt, though, on the day he got the job or the day he spoke at the press conference, I thought he overdid it a little bit about Script Ohio, and it's. I don't mean to say it was scripted. It just seemed that it wasn't. He was talking about all those things, but it didn't seem natural.
Well, I think you do. You try to overcompensate for the fact that Urban Meyer's talking about. Urban Meyer walks around with a Buckeye nut in his pocket and talks about when he would be at the grocery store with his mom and the Ohio State-Michigan game was playing over the loudspeaker at the grocery store when he was 6 years old. Urban Meyer did. Urban Meyer lived it. Jim Tressel lived it.
Right.
They grew up with it. Ryan Day can never be that. But guess what? Like, the University of New Hampshire is not very good at football.
No, they're not.
So he can't aspire to be that. But he's smart. He's personable. He's been preparing for this opportunity. He's recruited really well. He's an up-and-coming offensive mind. Everything else, I think he has what you want.
You think when the stuff broke on Urban and Earl Bruce's grandson, you think when it broke, Day knew he was next in line really quick?
Yeah, I think he did. I think they had talked to him about. They gave him $1 million. I wasn't thrilled with paying an assistant $1 million. They weren't the first to do it. They were actually behind the times a little bit. He knew he was getting an opportunity here. The $1 million wasn't enough to keep him alone. He had to know, I have a future here. He knew he had a future here. They had talked about replacing Urban. He didn't know that it was going to happen so quickly, but I think he had a very good idea. If this feels like it's getting sideways, I'm going to be the next head coach of Ohio State.
216-575-0403 is the number to call. Doug Lesmerises, Cleveland Plain Dealer and cleveland.com is with us. Northfield Park is your home for live and simulcast racing. Catch the excitement of live harness racing every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Post time is 6 p.m., but they open noon every day for simulcast action all over the world. Weekly Sunday contests Top prize $500 cash each and every week. It's free admission, free parking every day. When we get back, we'll talk quarterbacks. Justin Field getting ready for his first year with Ohio State. Not rated very high by the people at USA Today. Maybe it's different with Doug Lesmerises. We'll come back in a moment. More Sports and Les-levine exclusively on cleveland.com.
No other company or product can match the features, benefits, and warranty of an authentic Nature Stone floor.
We had a horrible storm that flooded our basement.
We had to take out that nasty moldy carpet.
And we never want to have to go through that again. That's when we called Nature Stone.
And with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty, you will never have to replace your basement flooring again. Get Nature Stone installed by the end of July and save up to 50%. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at baker-mayfield.com. It's not just a floor, wow, it's Nature Stone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget, Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Time for a How Come Quickie. Doug, help me out here. How come when you order a turtle soup in a restaurant, it's okay to say to the waitress, make it snappy?
People eat turtles? I don't want to eat a turtle. They're so cute.
Well, it helps you get out of your shell, I understand.
Hey, hoo-ah.
216-575-0403 is the number to call. Doug Lesmerises of cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. All right, USA Today ranked the top quarterbacks in the nation, and guess what? Justin Fields is not there. See if you agree. Well, you got to agree with the number one, just Trevor Lawrence of Clemson, right?
Yeah.
Had somebody better on that list?
No, he's going to be the first pick 2 years from now. Two is good. Justin Herbert's going to be a first rounder. Sam Ehlinger, people are excited about at Texas. Jake Fromm's the guy who beat out Justin Fields at Georgia. Adrian Martinez at Nebraska, I think, is going to be really good. Shea Patterson's more experienced. This is just a lot of situations. I know some scouts are really high on Jordan Love. Jalen Hurts was the guy who led Alabama all the way to the national title game before Tua took over. A lot of this is he just hasn't done it. He hasn't done it yet. So I get a ranking like this, but I think he'll be one of the 20 best by the end of the year.
All right, what did Fromm have that he didn't?
You know, that's a good question. I think Fromm probably, it's the experience, it's the reading the defenses, that kind of thing. I think Justin is a more versatile quarterback across the board. But Fromm was a guy who took over because the guy in front of him had gotten hurt and Fromm got a shot. It's so hard. These quarterbacks at these big schools, they stack them, right? They stack them one after another. And the minute you don't play, you transfer.
Well, it happened at Ohio State, basically. All right, so here you go. He didn't play much at Georgia last year. 27 of 39 completions, 328 yards, no interceptions. That's nice. Was it garbage time, or did Fromm get hurt somewhere along the line?
They were doing some goofy stuff with him where they were trying, I think, to like keep him interested and keep him on the hook, and they were putting him in the middle of games. They were putting him in at times as like a running threat. But they never gave him enough. I think he played maybe like a half in one of the games, but they never gave him enough to really get comfortable. And we saw it like at Ohio State in 2015. It's hard when you're moving quarterbacks in and out. So we haven't. He's not a rookie. I mean, he's not a freshman. It's his second year of college football, first year at Ohio State. He's played a little, but he's never been given the freedom to say this is your team.
All right. What are we going to see with Ohio State offensively in the beginning? What we see in the beginning, is that basically the way it's going to be all year, or is it just kind of testing to see what they've got and what they can do?
I think what we see early could be very different from what we see late in the year. Ryan Day talked about this at the Big Ten meetings, that they play 6 games, then they have a bye, then they play 2 more games, then they have a bye. It's a double bye year in college football. Then they play the last 4. That first 6, that first 6 he talked about a lot. He said, we're going to have a green quarterback for those first 6 games. So we're going to need everybody else on offense and defense to help pick him up. I think early you're going to see a lot of zone read. You're going to see Justin Fields, the runner. You're going to see him with J.K. Dobbins. They're going to lean on that. And I think by the end of the year, Justin Fields can throw it. He can throw it down the field. He throws a hard ball. By the end of the year, when you're getting to Penn State and Michigan, I think they will be much more of a passing offense. I just think early on, he's going to lean on his legs, and they'll call more run plays for him because he's 10 times the runner that Dwayne Haskins was.
Well, but so am I.
Les, come on. Dwayne Haskins ran for like 8 yards last year. I don't think you could get 8 yards in college football. No offense.
No,
neither could I.
You may be right.
Speaking of turtles.
So wait a minute. So tell me if you can compare him to anybody in the last 5 or 6 quarterbacks at Ohio State. Or is it a combination of somebody?
Yeah. I mean, I really think he is a combination. I think there's some Terrell Pryor in him.
Okay.
In that he's like a big guy, and I think he can be a long strider and be a guy who gets out in space and gets up the top speed. He's shiftier than Terrell Pryor. So nobody is as shifty as Braxton Miller in the open field, but he's got a little more wiggle than Pryor did. And then I think he can throw it. He's a better thrower, I think, than Pryor or Miller or J.T. Barrett. But he's not the thrower that Dwayne Haskins was. So the thing I've been trying to tell Ohio State fans is just take yourself back to what an Ohio State quarterback was before Dwayne Haskins. Wipe Dwayne Haskins from your memory and start thinking about that guy who's definitely a run threat, but can throw it, can get out in the open field, can evade sacks, can make some big plays. And Justin Fields fits in that mold. He could be better than any of them.
Sounds like Troy Smith to me.
There's some of that, and I think he's young Troy Smith. I think he's not going to be 2006 Troy Smith, but he might be 2004 Troy Smith and some 2005 Troy Smith, and that Troy Smith ran all over the place.
He did.
Troy didn't run as a senior because he didn't have to.
All right, you mentioned J.K. Dobbins. Give me a couple of other names of skilled players that they, number one, that they need to perform, and number two, will they perform?
So one to remember for sure that Ohio State fans know is K.J. Hill, who's going to wind up as the all-time leading receiver in Ohio State history, at least in terms of receptions. That's what we're talking about with this guy. He's been super reliable, and he's back for a 5th year. Another guy who's going to be interesting in that slot receiver position, he's not a slot receiver. His name's Jeremy Ruckert. He's a tight end who I think Ryan Day is much more interested in not just using the slot receiver position for small guys and slot receivers, but for doing those tight end mismatches that the NFL uses so much. So it's easy to say he's going to be like Gronk. Nobody's like Gronk, but I think they're going to try to get Jeremy Ruckert split out in space on mismatches with linebackers. He could have a big year. They have a couple receivers back. Chris Olave flashed at the end of last year. He'll be a true sophomore. And then the guy that everyone's watching is Garrett Wilson, a true freshman, who I think could have as good of a year as any true freshman receiver in Ohio State history.
Olave came out of nowhere. He made a couple of plays in a game, and everybody says, let me check my scorecard, see who that guy is. I mean, I don't remember anybody coming out of nowhere like he did.
And he was not a huge recruit. Like, that's what we're talking about. We looked at Julian Fleming on that previous recruiting list. Garrett Wilson was a 5-star receiver. He's a freshman this year. Julian Fleming is a 5-star receiver. So, like, next year and the year after, when you think about Garrett Wilson and Julian Fleming together, that's going to be really super dynamic. But Chris Olave was a 3-star guy from San Diego, and we know sometimes guys like that pop, and I think Chris Olave absolutely can do it.
And the other thing is, if people complain about Ohio State, and I'm not sure why they would, but if they do, you forget how many key players they lose on any given year. In other words, it's not bad recruiting, it's great recruiting. It's just you don't get to use them 3-4 years.
And I think that was one of the big things of K.J. Hill coming back. He wouldn't have been a first-round pick. I mean, he might have been a 3rd or 4th-round pick. He definitely thought about leaving. They already lost 3 senior receivers from last year, so to have K.J. Hill back to sort of be the old guy in that room, I think was a big deal for them.
216-575-0403 is the number. Doug Lesmerises of cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer with us, covering Ohio State, of course, and also the Cleveland Browns getting set. They'll report to training camp on Wednesday out in Berea. We also have the voicemail of Truth and Reason. You can call us anytime. Leave us a message, 216-200-6650. We do the show live from 6 to 7 Eastern Time, p.m. And however, voicemail of Truth and Reason goes 24 hours a day, 216-200-6650. We'll come back in a moment. A lot of people thinking Super Bowl for the Cleveland Browns. I'm not, and neither is somebody else you may have heard of in the last couple of months. We'll get to that and more. More Sports and Les-Levine continues in a moment, exclusively on cleveland.com.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family cool this summer,
let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant, whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at 440-449-HEAT.
This day in sports history, July 22nd, 2013. Hard to believe it's that long ago. Ryan Braun, 2011 National League MVP, is suspended for the rest of the season after being tied to a, well, not tied literally, but being, what's a better word than that?
Associated with.
And tied with a Florida clinic accused of distributing PEDs. 216-575-0403, the number to call. Doug Lesmerises here, does a great job on Ohio State, the Browns, and anything else. Third and short every Sunday in the Plain Dealer. It's like you don't have you explain third and short. For 25 years now, I have to explain how come quickies, but it happens. You a Jeopardy follower?
No.
Okay, well, James Holzhauer, the Jeopardy champ, the all-time champ, says this. He, of course, is a sports gambler. I would say the big thing to avoid is to look away from the teams that have all the hype surrounding them. I can't believe we live in a world where the Cleveland Browns are the most hyped team in the preseason, but I would say they're probably the single worst bet to win the Super Bowl right now. All right, put yourself in his shoes. What do you mean by that? And then go the other way with it. Because I know you predicted 15-1 or something like that.
That is crazy. I've predicted 12-4.
Oh, come on.
Bud Shaw is getting in your ear and overselling my prediction. 12-4 is very reasonable.
I thought I heard 13-3, but
that's
okay. That's okay.
What that guy's saying is, like, with the odds they have, they're the worst bet because they've been bet down. I think there might be the fifth lowest odds to win the Super Bowl. So I do not think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. I think they're going to win the Super Bowl next year. So.
Why? Because they have no experience in most places.
Because they have. I think they have to get in the playoffs, win a playoff game, get into a situation where you're going to build up a little tolerance for this kind of thing. But these guys have not. Even the guys they got have barely played in the playoffs. Olivier Vernon and Odell-Beckham Jr. None of these guys have won a playoff game. Sheldon Richardson. None of these guys have playoff experience.
They're just names right now, basically.
Well,
good names.
They're better than names. They're good players. They're good. They're just inexperienced in the most important situations. So
is that applicable as much now as it might have been 10 years ago in the NFL?
I think it still matters some. I think the weird thing that is happening with the Browns is I think if you look at the Browns and say, this roster does not have very much playoff experience, I think that's a very valid thing to say, right? I think if you look at the roster and say, this roster is the Browns, which I still think some people are doing, and some national people and too many people, there's a lot of buzz. But if your reasoning for thinking the Browns can't do it is because they are the Browns, I don't want to hear that. That's silly.
No, that's absurd.
But so you're caught up on the past of the Browns. If you're caught up on the resumes of a roster that basically has never been to the playoffs before, and Freddie Kitchens is a first-year coach, I get it. So I would not bet the Super Bowl, but I think the number on like their regular season wins is like 9.5 or 10.
You'd go
9
over.
or 10. Hammer the over.
Hammer. Not just go over. You want to hammer the
hammer. I have no money.
But if you had it,
hammer it.
Hammer it. All right. So does it bother you that two of the linebacker positions might be rookies?
I don't think it will be. I just wrote about Joe Schobert and Christian Kirksey on Sunday. I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited about Sione Takitaki and Mac Wilson, and I get it. And I think Adarius Taylor is probably going to be the third linebacker. They're going to play two linebackers almost all the time. Steve Wilkes loves playing a third safety, or they'll have a third corner in there. It's only going to be two linebackers. There's so much new that I think it's easy to sort of overlook Schobert and Kirksey. When they're healthy, I think they're good. And I think if they're healthy and together, they'll be fine. I think Takitaki's a comer, and he's going to have a good career here. But I don't think it has to be this year that it will be this year. I'm more worried about the offensive line, but I'm good at linebacker.
216-575-0403 is the number to call. Brett Favre's name has come up in the past few days talking about Baker Mayfield. Let's hear or look at what he had to say. There's no question that the sky is the limit for Baker. And yeah, I think his style of play, and I've heard the same thing about Mahomes, and I agree with both, that their styles of play, if you had to pick a former player, would certainly match up to my style. That's Brett Favre talking. It's Nate Ulrich of the Akron Beacon Journal. What do you think? Compare Baker? Baker's not, I think Favre's size put him a little different, but maybe the brashness of his play maybe works.
No, I think we group gunslingers together, right?
Yeah.
And so
no matter what the size?
Yeah. I mean, one size fits all when you're a gunslinger, baby. So I think I get that, and the good part of that is making plays outside structure, that if the line breaks down, you're not dead. It means you're athletic enough. If you're Brett Favre, you're athletic enough. You're not taking off and necessarily running, but you're athletic enough to keep plays alive, and you'll take some risks, right? And so the one thing with Brett Favre is he's not Tom Brady. He threw some killer interceptions. I was not living in Green Bay when he played there, but I'm sure there were weeks when Packers fans were like, I can't believe this guy, he's driving me nuts. So the part of that equation and that comparison I think Browns fans need to keep in mind is that Brett Favre made a lot of mistakes. Now, he made more great plays than he did mistakes, but if there's a week when you feel like Baker Mayfield drove you crazy, that is like Brett Favre, and you have to be ready for that.
But don't you think Baker and most new quarterbacks today are taught to unload the ball, just live to play another day, as opposed to gunslinging it down and hoping for the best? Which would you rather have?
I like the slinger. I mean, like, I
if
remember.
he's over midfield, at least.
Yeah, and I'm very curious to see how Freddie plays this, because Freddie's definitely got some gunslinger in him. I remember when Deshaun Watson was at Clemson, and his senior year at Clemson, he threw a lot of picks when they played Ohio State in the playoff semifinal, and I just was always, especially in comparison to a guy like Jake T. Barrett, I was like, give me a guy who throws picks. Give me a guy who gives his receivers a chance. Give me a guy who's not afraid to make plays. I absolutely think it can be pounded into quarterbacks sometimes. Like, if your number one thing is don't make a mistake, you're never going to make any plays. So Deshaun Watson, I think if he fell in that draft because he threw too many picks, that was crazy. He gave guys a shot to make a play. He believed in his receivers. I think Baker Mayfield is going to believe in Odell-Beckham all the time, and the result's going to be Beckham making some plays, but he's also going to throw some picks.
Is he going to be a different quarterback outside the red zone than he is inside as far as taking those chances?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't think Baker is crazy. I don't think he's irresponsible, right? But I think he's willing to take a risk when a risk needs to be taken, and you're going to have to live with the consequences, good and bad. But not red zone, not silly, not stupid.
Doug Lesmerises is with us, cleveland.com, and the Plain Dealer, Sokolowski's University Inn. Doug, they've been with me every day for 26 years. How about that?
Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. They were the hit of the Taste of Tremont yesterday. Sokolowski's University Inn. They've been in that same location since 1923. The back of that picture there is the bar area. Best view of downtown Cleveland as you look over the flats. And there's not a better group of people than the Sokolowski family, that's for sure. Coming up, we'll have the Facebook question of the day. We'll get your thoughts on our question and what you had to say. When we come back, we'll talk some Tribe. Doug Lesmerises with us. More Sports and Les-levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
No other company or product can match the features, benefits, and warranty of an authentic Nature Stone floor.
I had an epoxy-based sand paint on my floor that deteriorated, and that's why I called Nature Stone.
Why paint? It's expensive, it's ugly, and it doesn't last. Nature Stone is always affordable. It's beautiful, and with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty, you will never have to replace your garage floor again. Get Nature Stone installed by the end of July and save up to 50%. It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Doug, let's check out this date in Les-Levine history. July 22nd, 1983. That's me on the right, lower right.
You are a handsome man, Les.
I got that stash going in those days. Les finds out that he's being investigated for using performance-enhancing drugs, PEDs. He claims that what appeared to be colored pills were actually M&Ms, which to his knowledge was legal, perfectly legal at that time.
M&Ms are delicious.
What's your favorite color? Any. No question
I like
about
a
that.
nut in it, though.
All right, so running back Orleans Darkwa works out for the Browns. What does that mean to Duke Johnson?
I just think I'm anticipating that Duke's not going to end up being here. I just think I understand the idea of, you want to have some Kareem Hunt insurance while he's not playing for the first 8 games, but it just seems like there's too much going well with the Browns. It doesn't seem like John Dorsey's the kind of guy who would want to keep somebody like that around.
You know questions are going to come up every day.
Yeah.
No matter what happens.
I think they're just going to get off that. I hope he doesn't give him away. But I think Orleans Darkwa, I was looking at some of his middle school film today, and I don't know who he is. I don't know who that is. Good luck to him. Apparently he's 6'10". If that is correct, he is a 6 foot 10 inch tall running back who they can throw a lot of lobs to. I don't think.
All right, typographical error.
I make more errors than anybody. I'm just joking around.
We admit, no question. Let's take a look at the Facebook question of the day. And, of course, yesterday with the line shot by Francisco Lindor that hit a 3-year-old boy behind the Indians' dugout. This is a no-brainer. Should the Indians extend their netting from foul pole to foul pole? I have yet to hear one reason why they should not do it. You got a reason?
No, Major League Baseball is too often stuck in the past and holding on to tradition, and this is insanity that this has not happened already. And so
I have sat behind home plate. I don't even know there's a net there.
Nobody would care. It's offensive that they've taken this long.
All right, Michael Galandic says yes, safety of the fans should be a priority. Nothing is more important. Andy Mee says absolutely. In this day and age of cell phones, people seem to spend time taking pictures to post on social media than they do keeping their eye on the ball. Let me tell you something. I've seen infielders in the American League who they do it for a living and they can't keep track of the ball. You want some 89-year-old lady doing that? Or a 6-year-old boy? Come on. Rick May says absolutely, they should have done it some time ago. Baseball should be proactive, not reactive to the situation. Dave Shoup, seems odd that the league hasn't mandated that after the first child was struck. Just get it done. Carl St. John says, why wasn't this an issue 10, 20, 30 years ago? I have a friend who was a great baseball player back in the day, and he said, I used to go to Indians games. I don't remember that many balls going into the stands like that. Do you? 20 years ago? I don't either.
I mean, I think pitchers didn't throw as hard. The batters didn't swing as hard. The technology was not as good. I think that the ball's just moving at a quicker pace.
Yeah, when it's juice, that's what happens.
That's true. Everything's juice.
Jordan Reese says just do it. Danny Harrison says absolutely not. The game's been around for a long time, and accidents like yesterday don't happen that often. What?
I mean, you can't start with your defense. That's exactly the thing I'm talking about. If your defense of anything in baseball is, well, it's always been this way, that is not a defense to me.
All right, finally, Greg Mees says maybe people should quit bringing babies to a Major League Baseball game. Well, I'll tell you what, when it's 98 degrees and, 1,000 humidity, that may not be a bad idea, but you don't get me started. I said don't get me started.
You're a Hall of Famer, let's say whatever you want.
All right, Indians in Toronto tonight. How many wins do you think they'll need to win the Central?
Maybe like 94. I mean, I don't know what the pace is right now, but I don't think the Twins are going to collapse, but they're going to come back a little bit. And I don't think I don't think it's going to take 100, but it's going to take a little more than maybe you would have expected, but they can get to 94.
Let's go to the most knowledgeable female out there in the audience about baseball. That's Ellie in Brook Park. Ellie, where have you been?
I've been just hanging around. But
all right, let me guess. You want to talk Tribe?
So confused, but I want you to know I was still alive.
Okay, good to hear from you.
Okay, my question is, if Trevor Bauer gets traded, do you think Danny Salazar may work his way back into the starting rotation, or does he go to the bullpen first and then maybe work his way in?
Or along those lines, will they do something with Bauer based on what they think they have with Salazar in the minors?
I know Paul Hoynes wrote about this, I think, the other day. I think the idea of Danny Salazar as an opener, which is this pitcher that Major League teams are using now to pitch the first inning or two, could make a lot of sense. I don't think that they are going to get themselves in a position where they're relying on Danny Salazar as an every fifth day starting pitcher. I think they would be asking for trouble with his injury history.
But maybe next year if Bauer isn't here.
Yeah, I think you can think maybe long-term on that. I'm very interested, and maybe this is just me speculating, I'm very interested if Brad Hand ends up not being an Indian at some point, what Danny Salazar could potentially do at the back end of the bullpen. So I just think with a smaller guy like that, can you rely on him to pitch 6 and 7 innings every fifth day? I don't know.
But let me ask you this. You want to break? I understand you got a lot of money involved if you keep Bauer here next year, and Hand, he's under control. Why would you break up this team when you think you should still be better than Minnesota next year? Because I hear people say, well, Chicago will be all right. I'm not ready to believe in Chicago either. Why wouldn't you keep things pretty much intact, add an outfielder, a bat, and just go and win 2020?
I would not consider trading Trevor Bauer breaking it up. I would consider it balancing the roster, because I don't think, for instance, you can add a bat while Trevor Bauer is here. In the offseason, you're not going to add a bat of any real salary in free agency with what you're going to be paying Trevor Bauer. And right now, and I wrote this the other week, and a lot of people I think are seeing the same thing, if the deal for Trevor Bauer is minor leaguers, I have no interest. Right. If I'm trading Trevor Bauer right now, it has to be for a major league bat that goes immediately in to the everyday lineup.
You know what bothers me? We have not disagreed with each other all night. We have a few more minutes, and we have a chance to do that.
Let's do it.
We'll do it when we get back. Northfield Park, you're home for live and simulcast racing, and they've got it every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Its post time is 6 p.m. on that. Weekly Sunday contest, top prize $500 cash each week. Lady Luck's Clubhouse open every Saturday with a buffet, just $15.95. It's free admission, free parking every day at Northfield Park. We've got a whole bunch of How Come Quickies to get to and more. Doug Lesmerises with us. More Sports and Les-Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
No other company or product can match the features, benefits, and warranty of an authentic Nature Stone floor.
We had a horrible storm that flooded our basement.
We had to take out that nasty moldy carpet.
And we never want to have to go through that again. That's when we called Nature Stone.
And with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty, you will never have to replace your basement flooring again. Get Nature Stone installed by the end of July and save up to 50%. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at baker-mayfield.com. It's not just a floor, wow, it's Nature Stone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program has been recognizing role model students and teachers since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Supporting Education. There, you can nominate students in kindergarten through 12th grade as academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible for the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Jeff Shudell joins us tomorrow. You can see us from 6 until 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We're getting emails from all over the country. And you can also email us at the email address, and also follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/more-sports-and-les-levine, with new content posted each and every day. A couple of emails sent in. Doug, we've got a crisis on this show. John Patrick has sent in, I think he hit the wall. He used to send in 2 quickies per night. Then last week it went down to 1, and now we can't find him.
I'll take the blame for that. He probably did not want to be associated with the show I was on.
That could very well be. All right, however, Doug Edwards from Perry Township says, how come slow down and slow up mean the same thing? Good question.
That's a good one.
How come they're called stands when they're made for sitting? That's pretty good also. Mr. Gullible, who has now moved on the inside of the track to pull ahead of John Patrick, has his daily double in here. How come I'm so poor that I can't even pay attention?
Hey!
How come a scientist installed a knocker on his door because he wanted a Nobel Prize? Your thoughts? You don't have any thoughts.
I get it.
Here's what you do have. 2.5 minutes to just beat Doug Lesmerises.
Oh, you don't want that.
I do.
Ask my wife. Nobody wants 2.5 minutes of me being Doug Lesmerises.
I'd make it 2 minutes. You just use 30.
So I just want to tell people, and I've written this and I've said this a million times. I said 12-4 for the Browns in December. Do not let anyone dissuade you from your enthusiasm about this Browns season. We're going to get to camp this week, and we're going to start seeing real things, and everyone's going to start going, yeah, but look at this, and yeah, but look at this. And I'm going to do some of that too. Offensive line, I don't know. This is real. I've researched it. I've looked at it. The players are in place. Teams do this all the time. They are absolutely positioned to make a leap that has been made scores of times in the NFL.
Such as
the Carolina Panthers, when they jumped up and were their Super Bowl team. They were like a 500 team the year before. The Seattle Seahawks, when they started their run, right, they were nothing before that. This is the beginning of something. You think you maybe don't believe it because it hasn't happened. This is absolutely roster by roster, player by player. This is the start of something. And other than the Patriots and kind of the Steelers, this is how the NFL is supposed to work. You're supposed to be bad, mediocre, good.
And that's why that's why so many games hinge on a field goal at the end or a turnover at the end. And that's why point spreads are 7 or less for the most part.
This is how it is. It's confusing for Browns fans because the Browns have not participated in this for 2 decades. But actually, this is the norm. The Browns being good this year would be completely normal. What was not normal was being awful for almost 20 years.
Okay, so that all being said, you can come up with a lot of reasons why the Browns won't be that good, but one of the reasons should not be, well, because of the Browns or because it happened in 20 years since Mr. Lerner took over. That's not a reason anymore.
And in conjunction with that, the fact that they were 1-31 very recently is also not a reason for that. It's actually a reason they're going to be good. Because the problem was when they were 5-11 and 4-12 and 6-10 every year, and they could never get the draft capital, and they never just saved up the money on the salary cap to make a run at it. That was purposeful, and I'm not making. Sashi Brown hired by the Wizards today.
How about
Sashi Brown, I'm betting on the Wizards to win the NBA title in 2024-25. They built to this. It's so logical for the Browns to be good this season. If you really research it, and I wrote a third and short about this a month ago, it will blow your mind how logical it is. It would be stunning if they were bad.
Okay, first of all, I've written down 2025 will be a championship year for the Washington Wizards.
So excited for Washington.
All right, one last question are they giving too much on the plate of Freddie Kitchens? Offensive coordinator, well, not offensive coordinator, but play caller on Sunday afternoon or Monday night or whatever. Is it too much for a guy who hasn't head coached at any level?
A lot of guys eventually give it up, right? And there's a lot of comparisons, and I've made a lot of comparisons between Ryan Day and Freddie Kitchens, and this is one of them. They're first-year head coaches, they're former quarterbacks, they're former offensive coordinators who are going to call plays as head coaches this first year. I would bet that 5 years from now, if they're both still the head coaches for the Browns and the Buckeyes, neither of them will be calling plays. There are bumps there. I get why guys don't want to give it up, because that's the fun stuff, calling plays. But I do think Todd Monken is going to be a great help to Freddie Kitchens.
I worry too much about the 2-minute drill. I worry too much about using timeouts. It just concerns me because he hasn't done it before. And I know he's got somebody screaming in his ear. I understand that.
But with a lot of things with the Browns this year, whatever Freddie does can't be worse than Hugh.
So we got that going for us.
Got that going for us.
Got to go. Doug Lesmerises does a great job here, as well as, of course, on cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. We'll see you tomorrow night. Jeff Shadell joins us, Bud Shaw on Wednesday. Then it's the D-Man, Dennis Mantloff, on Thursday. Of all the shows I've ever done, this was the most recent.